Hey y'all, welcome to the Moving with Millennials podcast with your favorite millennial realtors.
We are 4 top producing agents in the DFW area, and we are ready to share the good, bad, and the real life of real estate.
Whether you're thinking about getting into real estate, already an agent, or just curious about what your agent really does, join us.
Tune in every Wednesday to see what it's really like to be on this side of the transaction.
Let's get ready to rumble! Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode. Jake has no idea what just happened.
I'm like literally in shock.
Oh god, we're getting delusional at this
Your
point.
face expressions are extreme.
Yeah,
No, because half the face is frozen.
This half is the fun
some
side
Botox.
for this episode, and that half is the not fun side.
suckers.
We are over here having fun.
Excuse you.
She did it with you, I think. I was like
Did you
confused
really?
on
I was
all
just, like,
sides of me. I
yelling.
was like confused.
Oh my gosh.
It's fine.
So
Okay.
this week's episode, we're doing Meet the Team, which is why we did a little sports,
Yes.
Was
Meet
that
the
sports?
team.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Get out of there.
Yeah.
Yay, sports.
Because-
Go balls.
In a
Wrestling.
real estate
Go Bulls.
transaction. What?
There's a lot of people involved in a real estate
So
transaction.
it's
yes.
not just agents and their buyers or sellers. It's a lot of people
A lot.
involved. It takes, what is the saying? It
Takes a village.
Takes-
Yeah, it takes a village, for sure. That's,
Takes a lot of chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I mean, all the sayings basically
Yeah.
you can think of.
yeah.
So
It
we
is.
thought it'd be fun to kind of tell you, like, okay, who's all involved in a transaction? This is great for agents, especially if you're new and you're not quite sure, like, what, who does what and who's involved, who do I need to know. But also, if you're listening and you're a buyer or seller, just kind of know, like, we have a team of people. Like, it's not just us. Like, yeah, we're kind of like we literally are like sales brokers, but at the same time, we're kind of like the middleman, just keeping all the pieces together.
I like to be called the coach.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
100%, yeah.
That is true. We are
And
the
the
coach.
cheerleader.
Yeah, that
Oh my
too as
gosh,
well.
so many
And
things.
therapist.
All the things.
Yeah.
So let's start off at the top, like who all is involved in the transaction. Let's start off by obviously
It's the agents on each
is the
side.
agents. Yeah, you have a listing agent and a buyer's agent. So who wants to talk about what do we do?
In the beginning, God created us.
I was like, okay,
And on
let's
the
go.
seventh day, God created
So,
realtor.
the
Yeah.
listing agent is in charge of selling the house, and the buying agent is helping a family purchase the home. So that's the
Yes.
separation of agents.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. So the listing agent has the one house that they're worried about in the transaction. The buyer's agent is probably going to show multiple houses leading up to that one, getting it under contract. So I think that's kind of the big difference right
Yeah.
now is that the buyer's agent is doing, showing a lot more properties
Right.
per transaction than the listing agent is handling,
Yeah.
obviously.
And that both of those sides both negotiate on behalf of their clients. So
Yeah.
both of them share that, I guess, duty.
You have that fiduciary
Yeah.
Yeah.
duty to your client, which is why I think it's important you have a listing agent and a buyer's agent, just because you want to have fair representation.
Right.
Absolutely.
When it gets to the point where there's one agent kind of facilitating both sides, like there's things like
Gets-
we can't do, like give opinions, and obviously we can't be biased, so it makes it
Yeah.
so much easier when there's a buyer's agent and a listing
Uh-huh.
agent.
Absolutely. And I think it's an interesting dynamic because ultimately both agents the listing agent wants their client to sell the house and the buyer's agent wants their buyer to buy the house. And so in a way you're on the same side, but then on another perspective is that you're also at times you're opposing.
Right.
Or you can be in a way, because it's like when you're negotiating certain things, what's good for one client means the other client is going to have to give something up.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like every time you say yes to something
Win-win.
on one side, you're really saying no to something else, or vice
Right.
versa. So it's an interesting like a push-pull kind of relationship that you have with
Yeah.
the agent on the other side. It's always
Right.
it's an interesting dynamic to me
It
to
is.
get
Right.
yourself
And
into.
but it's also great to keep like the emotions in check. Like sometimes when we're talking, like if I'm on the buyer side and I have a listing agent, when we're talking back and forth, the listing agent may go, you can tell the buyer
Yeah.
that my seller
go.
said go to XYZ. And I'm going to
Yeah.
be like, well, I'm not going to tell him that. But
Yeah.
so it's like we kind of lean in those emotions as well. And
Right.
sometimes we laugh about it. Like we're
Yeah.
like, my seller said this.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
That
yeah.
really was mine.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. That was my
Oh,
seller client
gosh.
told me to tell the buyer's agent
And you're
that.
like, no, I'm not going to do that. But
Yeah.
it's not necessary. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is two of the main components
Right.
to a transaction.
Please
Yeah.
see the etiquette.
Right.
For
Yeah.
Episode.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes. See the
Right.
zone etiquette and
Yeah.
how to be professional. But the next one is a TC, which stands for transaction coordinator. Sometimes both agents have one, but the role of a transaction coordinator is timeline management, making sure everything's running smoothly, following up with title, which we'll talk about in a second. Any sort of deadline, they manage
Yeah.
that.
Some agents even have their TCs handle certain documents, like sending those out for signatures and things like that. Especially if your transaction coordinator is licensed, they can do a little bit more for you than an unlicensed transaction coordinator can. So, it's important that if you're working with your agent, if they're using a transaction coordinator, they're going to be very clear about what that coordinator is doing for them, what TC is doing for them, versus what the agent will be doing for you. It's not ever that you're like handed off completely and like you lose your agent. It's definitely not that way. The whole point is that the transaction coordinator is there to make everyone's life easier in a way. So you're still going to have the full support of your agent. They're fully clued in on everything. It's not like they just hand you off and you disappear. I think that's important. Some people, when they hear that an agent has either an assistant or an admin or a TC, I think they fear like, I'm going to get handed off and I'm going to lose my agent. And that's not the case.
Yeah. No. They're there to just dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure things are getting done. You know, if we're in an appointment, they're available for you. So it's very much a bonus.
Absolutely. So there can be one or maybe two of those involved, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about, and this one like kind of has a bunch of components. So the next part of the team is title. So once you go under contract and you open title, you have a whole title team that they may have assistants. They're going to have closers. They're going to have
lawyers.
Lawyers involved. They're coming and writing the documents, getting everything ready for closing, but also pulling. Like I forgot what do they call their the people who pull the title search.
For the people that actually do it.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of that.
Yeah. There's a I don't know. We don't know because we don't deal with that part of it, but
it's like right on the tip of my tongue now that I've thought about it for half a second, but I can't think of it. I'll think of it when we're done recording, I'm sure.
Okay, afterwards.
As soon as we're done.
Yeah, but title is something that your agent usually has a connection with a good title company that they recommend, or they're going to say, hey, this is my preferred. I recommend that we close with them. Have you ever had clients? Every now and then, I've had like maybe 2 clients that prefer a certain title company, either because they know somebody who works at a title company.
Or they've closed with them recently.
Right, and that's totally fine.
Absolutely.
As long as we're obviously able to communicate with them and keep them on track.
Definitely.
I think it's important to note that kind of in the olden days, whoever was paying for the title policy is who would pick the title company. So typically the seller and the agent will specify a specific company in the MLS. But previously, if the buyers were to pay for title, they could change the title company in the contract if they wanted to, or they could at least negotiate it. Nowadays, it's just very common to just go with what the listing agent has specified. And a lot of times it's because they've already opened title search anyways. So
definitely,
it's good to just finish it through.
I've never changed it. Have you ever?
Oh, I absolutely have.
I used to all
we
the
used to be able
time.
to. Like probably like our first year, we could. If it's like
if buyer was paying title, I even did it last year.
Yeah,
I just stopped because it's just like
I think I did
one less. Like I mean, it's just like you're up against multiple.
I think
it's just
I did
easier to
at one point last year
We'll
as
just
well.
give it to you.
Yeah. But then like if I don't know, it's hard because like usually title companies, if they are paying title, they'll waive that escrow fee. I think it is. Or at least mine. It saves them like $500. So sometimes it depends on the agent. If they're like easy to work with, I'll just explain that. Like, hey, would you mind before we submit? Hey, would you mind if they're paying title? Can we pick the title?
Buyers pay, And I still see that every now and then. And most listing agents don't have a preference as long as so you will be in contact with the title company, and our job as buyers agents, listing agents, is to communicate with the title company, make sure they're meeting deadline on getting the title commitment back in time, the HOA docs, making sure those are coming back in time. I don't know about y'all, but I had a title company that sent us title documents, like the title commitment and HOA, but didn't send us any restrictions or anything, and you had to request them, which was weird.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Strange.
it kind of made us upset or not made me upset, but later because we were past our title deadline, they hadn't sent it, and I just kind of asked about it. She goes, "Oh, well, you were supposed to request." And I'm like,
we
no,
didn't know
no.
that. That's
Well, it was like in one little. It was like she showed me like it was on the like title commitment like search.
Oh my gosh,
intro
the million page.
Yeah, and I'm like okay, well.
Which I typically go to the one section that is the most important section of the title.
Schedule C.
Go over that. So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So our job is to communicate with the title company, make sure documents are being pulled in a timely manner, and
that's our job.
Yeah.
So on the buyer side, sellers usually have like a little questionnaire that the title company will have them fill out, and for buyers, that's who you're going to be paying your earnest and option fee to. They're they're basically a neutral third party. So they're the ones collecting the funds from everyone, dispersing the funds as well, on top of the title work and the timeline and HOA, on top of all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So that's
and if you
important
ever
as well.
hear the word escrow, that's where you open title, you open escrow, so
Yep.
you open the account where money is exchanged back and forth, because the title is the one that's responsible for making sure liens are cleared, and when you get to closing, that the new warranty deed and all that is transferred over to the new homeowner, and they draft those documents to make it happen. So.
I always kind of explain to my clients, there's like a little kind of once we get through option, title and lender are doing a lot of work. And it's like at that point, like the agent is kind of like the agent and the buyer. It's like we just have to give them any information once they request it. But at that point,
and checking in. And
yeah, of course. But it's like they're the ones that kind of like working in that moment.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then on that note, the next person on the team
is the lender. This is someone who you're getting, if you're not paying cash for the home, who's helping you get your loan for the house.
Yeah.
And the lender is going to have probably multiple people that you're working with as well.
Absolutely.
You have your your loan officer. So your loan officer is usually the main point of contact.
Or LO.
It's who you,
Yeah, LO.
Yeah, LO.
Yeah, LO.
I've been in the mom groups. They keep saying LO, and it's
Yeah.
supposed to be little one. But every time I read
Yeah.
LO, I'm like, loan
officer?
Yeah. My
Yeah.
loan officer just
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
literally.
Yeah.
It's like, won't go take a nap. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Should not be
There's
sleeping
a-
on the job.
Yeah.
Processor,
so
underwriter.
Yep. So the loan officer is the main person. That's who you probably did your pre-qualification with. They collected the documents. But in the what they're doing in the background is they're giving those documents to the underwriters who are, their responsibility is to confirm that the documents are legit, that you actually have a job that you say you have. So they're kind of the backbone in office, people that are verifying.
Checking your debt to income.
Yeah.
Making sure you still have a job on closing day.
I also think it's really important at this part to note that there is a difference between mortgage lenders and mortgage brokers.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lender and their team is going to have a lot more control over the transaction than a mortgage broker. So a mortgage broker is pretty much going to broker your deal out to different types of lenders or whatever. And so then they have a little less control. And so they'll have, so at that point you're dealing with the broker who's then also dealing with a whole different set of a lending team, kind of.
Right.
It adds like an additional layer. So we didn't really talk about the difference, but that there is that kind of additional step if you go towards through a broker instead of a lender.
Yeah, they're basically trying to find out which lender you're going to work with.
Yeah,
as
they
a
try to
broker.
find you like the best deal.
And then the lender will hire the appraiser.
Appraiser,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's a third party appraiser.
Yeah, so they go through, I can't remember the name of it. It's like
AMC?
AMC, yes. I was like,
Appraisal
AMC
Management Company.
Yes. So they go through that. That's who they order from, which is, again, we talked about using local lenders because they order through the local AMC. So you're going to have a local appraiser, which is very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keyword local. You want
Yeah.
local, you don't want
Yeah.
someone in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So the appraiser doesn't actually work for the lender, and
Correct.
that's very important to know because they have to hire out, like it goes into a pool of appraisers, and appraiser is picked at random basically because they want the most unbiased person to come in and give a value. Now, the job of the appraiser is to make sure that the lender is not over borrowing on the home.
Over-lending.
So, over-lending, to the borrower.
Because the house is the collateral. So it's got to be worth what they're
So
lending.
that's why the lender requires that you have an appraisal, well,
most of the
sometimes.
time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, yeah.
Very much most of the time, yeah.
And I think it's important to note that, like, you know, the appraiser, like you said, it's like a third party. They're not motivated to help the lender in any way. They're not motivated to help the seller. They're not motivated to help the buyer. They're literally supposed to be the most neutral, just this is the value of the property.
Yeah.
So I think that's important because people think like, well, you know, how can we affect that in a way? I think that there's a lot of people that like wonder,
Sway it in
how
our
can we
direction.
sway that or help that come in at value? And it's like, you know, you want it to be the true value, no matter what, you really do want it to be.
Yeah. And I think it'd be a great episode to get an appraiser in here to
Yeah.
kind of hear their perspective on
Totally.
things. But like, I was talking to my client about this. Like, appraisers are like, they're not like the top dogs of the transaction, but they're one of those that we're like, we're always like, okay, you want to make them happy, you don't want to make them mad.
Send
Yeah.
them cookies.
They could kill a deal. And
They can.
They know it. And, you know, most appraisers are super great people and there's no issues whatsoever. But every now and then you get like a little stinker.
Yeah, and they know like they have like the power of the like say so of the value.
Yeah.
I wish it was like a team of appraisers that the
multiple
value-
people
Like
in it.
2 or 3 of
that
them
would
looked
be
at the
great.
And
same
not just
one.
one, because it's like
It's
it just
up to that
seems-
one
yeah.
person. Like our fate
Yeah.
is in that one person's
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah,
I hate
that would
it.
be, I think, a lot better.
Definitely.
Especially in this market with how intense these prices
Uh-huh.
have been with appraisal
Definitely.
values.
I wonder though, with all the appraisal waivers, if it's made the appraisers feel a little less important or like a little less.
Oh, yeah.
I would think it'd make their job even harder because they're probably like stressed to the max of like, well, if I don't know, like I can't imagine being an appraiser right
They
now.
can't kill a deal if there's an appraisal
Right.
waiver.
They
So that's what I'm saying
can't.
is like, you know, like if
I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
But do they know there's an appraisal? Well, I guess.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
they
They have the
doc-
full contract,
Yeah, they have the full contract.
even
so they-
amendments.
I'm assuming so. The lender
Interesting.
has it, so I think
Well,
the
they have
appraiser would.
the contract, which if they did a waiver, they see that on
Well, if it's checked.
paragraph 23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that'd be a
But they
great
wouldn't know if
question
it's
to
partial
ask
or full.
them.
Yeah.
I'd
Do
love
you
to
know if there's an appraisal waiver or not?
Yeah, like I want to know their thoughts on like this current market of
Yeah.
like
Put
We
that in the
should
notes.
appraisal waivers.
Yeah, we need to find someone to talk to.
Yes.
And then the next thing is an inspector. We always recommend our clients get a third-party inspector.
Definitely.
Inspection
Yeah,
done,
and
absolutely.
come to the
Yeah.
house.
And most agents that you work with are going to have preferred inspectors, and that's again people that we know that they are not going to scare you away. They're going to communicate
100%.
the information that is important. They're
Yeah.
going to do it in a way that educates you instead of scares you, and they're going to do it just in a very factual, matter-of-fact way. I think that's the important part, is to have an inspector that can communicate it without ruffling any feathers or like
Having
Yeah.
emotion
Oh my
behind
any,
it.
any emotion behind it.
I had to get rid of one of my inspectors for scaring some buyers away more than
Oh my
2 different
gosh.
buyers. And
Plus
I was like,
the
I'm
other one
done.
that you had to get rid of for.
Oh, yeah.
I
Well,
got
that was
rid
the
of-
same one.
It's the
I got
same
rid
one.
So I
Yeah.
had already get, yeah.
Okay.
I got rid of an inspector because not even kidding. The first thing he said to my first-time home buyers, "Are you scared?"
Yeah, never.
I was like,
no.
"What? Why would
See you
you
later."
ever say that to me?"
No.
No, there's
This is
like
our
Yeah.
Any
last time
buyers,
working
especially
together.
first
Yeah.
time buyers. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're the buyer hires the inspector. They're on the buyer side.
You need to hop on the bus because
Yeah.
all 3 of us now use the same inspector
Yeah.
that I've
He's
given.
the guy,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yes, he's amazing.
I just love
I'll
him.
Yeah.
give him one try. I love
I'll
my.
give him one
give him
try.
one.
That's all it'll
He gets
take.
one
Get him
shot.
on here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know
for
he did a
sure.
good
He's
interview
so
as well.
cool.
And I
Yeah.
love that he also explains Trek, like
Yes.
inspectors, appraisers,
Yeah.
real estate agents were licensed through Texas Real Estate Commission, which is we call Trek.
He
But
does
he
explain it at the beginning of
explains that
everyone.
and explains like the different code changes and like basic, yeah. He's
Yeah.
So
great.
good.
He's so
Yeah.
good.
Give him one try.
Yeah.
That's all I did.
Yeah.
And like
But it-
depending on his availability, that determines our option. Like I can do a shorter option if he's available,
Yeah.
but like
I know.
sometimes it's
I
like
took
3
the
I
days.
test.
text
As
him
I'm-
before. I'll be
as
like,
I'm
can
writing
you,
a contract.
Can we do a 3-day option?
Yeah,
It's like,
it's
no,
like,
I'm slammed. I'm like, shoot, we need
but then-
4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 You
No,
know
and
it's
it's
good when we're asking him when we're writing our contract if he's available.
I want to make
Yeah.
sure you're. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Is
available.
like he really is like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
good.
He's
That's
Yeah.
So good.
No, and it is good if you're an
I
agent
also-
listening. Yeah, you want to have good inspectors, and I would say have multiple. I mean, yes, you probably have like your
Yes.
favorite, but have a couple because,
Yeah.
well, first of all, client gets to choose because
Correct.
you never want to push
Yeah.
which inspector for them to go with. They could use their own inspector if they want. I try to advise
Not
my
your
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah,
Not
your
your
dad
dad,
is
not
not
your
your
dad.
inspector.
Well,
One-
and I try
Your
like
dad
I'm
at
like,
home.
yeah, you
I've
really
had
don't want to go.
someone's dad be an inspector, and
Yeah.
they did
Well, and
it.
sometimes like they're like, oh, so and so can do it for much cheaper, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm sure they could, but like, what quality are you actually getting? And then they give us the report, and it's a 10-page report, and I'm like, this is not a good inspection.
Versus our 40 to
So
60 page
it
report
should
that we
be
get
your
that's
inspection
itemized and
should
tabbed.
be
Yeah.
40,
Yeah.
50 at least, because you're not just pointing out the negatives, it's the good, the bad, everything about
Right.
your
Yeah.
house that they know,
For
Yeah.
sure.
and there should be photos, everything to
Definitely.
go
Yep.
with it.
For sure.
Absolutely.
But inspectors are great,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
And for agents, if you don't have an inspector, I would find one of the really high producing agents in your office, maybe ask them who they use, get like 5 or 6 names, and then talk to
Yeah.
basically
Talk
interview
to them,
those.
yeah.
Like
Maybe
For
you
sure.
can go to lunch with them.
Yeah.
Grab coffee.
well, probably
just-
not right now. They need to be inspecting. Like, don't take my inspector to lunch right now.
No, I know, but
He's
he's
busy.
always smart.
I know,
He's got
like,
like multiple a
But-
day.
no.
You should
Um,
talk to them and just kind of
Yes,
get
you
the
should take
word.
the chance to get to know them. Absolutely. that's
Especially if
what I'm
it's
saying.
not someone who like I trust him because you trust him, right?
Right.
Like if it's someone that like you've just asked someone in your office,
Yeah.
you
Right.
might not
Definitely.
know.
And
Well,
the other thing, you can ask for a copy of one of the reports.
Yeah,
And
I
they'll
was about to
usually
say
share
that,
with you,
yeah.
and you can see kind
Yeah.
of how detailed they are.
That's
For
a good
sure.
idea. I had one inspector that was like trying to get my business, and they took me to lunch, and he made a comment like he was like, he's like, I used to be an agent, so don't worry. Like, I'll make sure that my inspections are never like scare away a client. Like, he made this like comment of like, I don't know, almost like he'll never kill a deal kind of thing.
But like, it's like you want
And I'm
to
like,
point out when
no,
it
no,
is
no,
like
no.
a.
If it's something, that's going
That
to
needs
kill
to
a
be-
deal.
Then we need to
It
know if
really
it's,
did
yeah.
not sit well with me when he was like, don't worry, like, I'll make sure.
Oh, no.
Like, yeah, I was just like, no.
I
Like,
bet that was a short date.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just
Oh
like,
my
yeah,
gosh.
that's not
So
what I'm
funny.
looking for.
Yes.
I really want someone that's going to tell me everything.
sure.
And my
Yeah.
client everything.
The
So-
next one is vendors. So we all have our preferred vendors, and that's not just like inspectors, lenders, all those things that we've already talked about, but like people that service HVACs or HVAC,
Roofers, pool companies, septic
electricians.
inspectors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The list goes on and
Septic.
on.
Well, and
Like garage door
especially,
people.
yeah, especially once you have your inspection, because the inspector is a general inspector.
Right.
Like, they're going to generalize, go over the home, but they're
Yeah.
not licensed electricians. They're not plumbers. You know, they're not going to,
Yeah.
they will get on the roof if it's safe, but
Yeah.
they're not those people.
I just had an engineer that had to go out to
Yes.
one
Yeah.
after, so it's like, we
have your experts.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, home warranty people.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
Just
yeah,
like that.
tons
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like for like plumbers, for example, like a general inspector, he's not filling up the pipes and making sure there's no leaks. Like, yeah, he's going to kind of do some things with the, the fixtures and check the meter, but he can't do some of the other stuff. So
Right.
know that you need to have on hand,
If
a whole
needed.
team for vendors. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
To be able
as
to
an
come
agent,
to come out during the option period and stuff
Absolutely.
too. Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Yep. Next up.
Insurance broker. This is just someone to help you find the best price.
Yeah.
Home insurance.
Simple.
For home insurance.
Yeah, for home
And
insurance.
you may be asking, like, okay, well, why is that part of the transaction? It's required. So
Yeah.
you have to have home insurance to get a loan.
If you have lending, yeah.
Yeah. So,
But even if you're like cash, you want home
You
insurance.
Yeah.
would want it.
yeah, of course.
It's not
Yeah.
required, but
It's, yeah. So during,
Highly,
if you're,
highly,
if
highly.
you're
Highly recommended.
financing,
You
sorry,
need
let me
home insurance.
rephrase it. If you're one of the 70% of transactions that are financed, it is required that you do have homeowners insurance. And usually the lender is going to like recommend a good broker, somebody that will help you find those. But we also,
We have
have
one.
a
Yeah.
broker as well.
Basically, someone that will
we can
shop the
recommend.
rates.
yeah,
Absolutely.
or do bundle
Yeah.
like car, auto, or car, home insurance.
Car and auto.
Yeah.
Yes.
Personal.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely,
It's good
yeah.
to try to get a good deal for that.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's good to shop it around. So.
Definitely.
Yep. All right.
All right, the
who's-
next one is
who's
going
next
to be
up?
utility concierge.
Yeah, and I just started
Yes.
using them. I'm not like as familiar.
Yes.
With it.
I've used it.
Love
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really nice.
I've never used it.
Really?
Utility
You should
concierge?
hand them
Yes.
over. Yeah. They'll handle it all. So it's like instead of like telling your client like you need to go to this and do this and that, it's like they can kind of like walk
Yeah.
them through it in a much easier way than like
Done.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
so,
it's
yeah,
free.
it's a great person to have on your team. Like, we literally, not that we don't make it an option. If they want to get their utilities on their own.
right.
But I say, hey, it's a complimentary service. It's from us, where this, my utility concierge is going to reach out and they're going to help you set up your water, electric, your cable, internet. If you want security, they'll help with that. They do a little bit of everything. And so it's so nice. You have so many moving parts. As a buyer, you're already
Yeah.
freaking out, packing, all the things. It's just one
Right.
extra person to help
Yeah.
you
One extra.
with one thing that you don't have to
Yeah.
do.
One less call or task that they have to do.
Yep.
All right. Last or movers.
Next up on the list, or up to bat on our team.
Hiring movers.
Yep.
I saw a meme yesterday. It was like, if you are over the age of 30, your friends aren't taking pizza and beer to help you move anymore.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
hired
hire
out. Like,
movers.
Oh my
it just
gosh.
is.
Yes.
We're out of that age. Thank God.
I my clients didn't use like one of my preferred movers, but just yesterday I got the text message of something that was damaged on a move-in,
Oh,
like a windowsill that was broken. I was like, oh.
Should
Yeah.
I use
And-
mine?
no, gosh.
Kidding.
But it was like one of those where the client was asking me, he's like, hey, they're saying they can fix it themselves.
Ooh.
And I was like, nope.
Yeah.
I was like,
No.
they're saying that because they don't have to report the issue back
Yeah.
to their main office. I
Yeah.
said, absolutely not. They're movers. They're not like, they don't work. They're,
They're
not
not
carpenters.
handymen.
They're not
Right.
handymen. So like, go ahead and have them report it. And then the company they carry insurance for situations like this.
Yeah.
They'll have to pay for it to be actually fixed.
Definitely.
Like, don't let them fix it on site.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No.
So, for
Yeah,
sure.
I want to call this like part like your move out team. Like, you've got the movers, but also like cleaners, like
Mhm.
people that can help you with like kind of that move out,
Yeah.
or move in.
Either way.
whatever one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
And then last on the batters list,
home warranty rep. That kind of goes with vendors.
but not least.
Huh?
I said last but not least.
Yeah, no. Yes, definitely.
And this is, home warranty reps.
Right. And home warranty covers like major systems, appliances. It's different than home insurance. And we all have 2 or 3 home warranty providers that we recommend to our clients.
Yeah.
Home warranty is one of the hard ones. You know, I feel like they all have good reviews and they all have bad reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends. It can be very situational. It can depend on who you're dealing with at the company too.
Mhm.
So it's one of those to where I'm like, it can be a harder one to refer.
Yeah.
I will say though, like I have clients that are like, oh, I don't want to waste my, it's like $500-$600 something like that for the year usually to get a home warranty. They're like, I rather just not. It's like car extended home warranty or whatever. I'd rather not because I've had that experience. But I'm like, there's a difference when I recommend them because I'm like, you call me if you ever have issues.
Yeah.
Because like they'll call the 1-800 number to file a claim or whatever it is. And it just doesn't get done. I'm like, you call me and you tell me because I'm going to call my sales rep who wants me to sell their services and they will get it done. Like I promise you, we will figure it out.
That's so smart, Mariana.
So I can't tell you how many times, clients call and they're like, I'm having an issue with this. And I'm like, nope, I'm handling it for you right now. Because if I'm going to recommend them, they better do a good job.
Well,
and they'll get it done.
But you know that last year, a certain company was dropped from our office because that did not work in my favor.
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one, but I was the catalyst for it. That I was like,
yeah. Well, that same company is one that I had to do that with, and it did get done after I had to step in. So that's also where like listing and buyers agents or agents in general, like even after the transaction,
we're still
like
here.
we're not just a party to the transaction. Yeah, we're helping you. Like this morning, one of my past clients called because they made a claim for hail damage and there just was an error like on the check. They made it like out to the wrong person, and so I just had to let them know, contact your insurance company and they'll make that correction kind of thing. But it's like she just wasn't like, you could tell confident on what do I do next. So while it's a simple fix, it just was a matter of her needing
There's always something that comes up. I don't think I've ever closed a transaction and not had them like reach back out about something. Yeah. And it should be good, but problem.
But it's good though because they know that we're here.
Yeah,
right. Like it's good that you're reaching out because we are here forever.
We're not just there for that time being.
Definitely.
But so those are like the main components of our teams.
Team players.
But then
Teamwork
like
makes
some
the dream
people
work.
and some people are like, well, I also have they have like health insurance people that they know, and they have CPAs, and maybe I have a photographer if you ever need. So it's like we have all these like connections with vendors because like we spend a lot of time with our clients, in the like 90-day time period, and we get to know them so well. And if they're getting married, we're like, oh yeah, I know a great photographer. They're always like asking us for other recommendations. So
or sometimes you have clients that then become vendors because of like what they do. So that's always fascinating too.
We didn't even talk about like stagers. Oh, we didn't even talk about photographers. Oh my gosh, there's so many other.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah, so people that help us getting the listing ready. So there's just so many people involved, and our job is to kind of know those people, know who are good at what they do, because there's so many different vendors out there that, like Jake has said, like we've taken people off our lists. So we want to make sure they're good to you.
Yeah, our list is like ever changing. I think that's an important part, is that we all assess it at different times and take a look at it and make sure that like who we have on there still needs to be on there, and that there's not maybe someone new that needs to be added to it to maybe take someone else's spot.
Yeah, and I will say, because some vendors, like I have, like which we're not like. Just, like kickbacks
are illegal.
They're very much illegal.
We never get paid.
But every now and then have a vendor saying like they'll do a kickback, and that is not like I do not care.
Oh yeah, that'll be like the easiest way for me to be like, you're no longer.
That just made me want to like run away from you.
Exactly, because then I'm like, when you finally get in trouble for it, I don't want to be one of the agents associated with you, even if I can clear my name and prove I never took your trip to Boca or whatever it is.
Yes. Because I can't tell you, like clients will ask like, do I have to go with your lender? No, you do not, and I'm not making any profit whether you do or not. I'm just making sure you get somebody that I know is going to be good and I can communicate well with, because they've been a good communicator for me. So
and get to the closing table.
It is really hard when you work with a lender, especially that you're not familiar with. That can be like grinding gears, because it's like if you just have different styles or different timelines and different expectations, it can be really hard. So it's like one of those where it's like, we definitely appreciate to be able to work with someone. And I've also, it's not that any new lender is hard to work with at all. I've had times where like my buyers are like using their own lender, and that lender's
It's
been
great.
fantastic to work with.
Yeah.
It's just occasionally you get that one-off where it's like, oh, we have very different styles.
Yeah. And
So.
one of my lenders who I was just talking about, like I work with all the time, was one of my buyers that came to me, and I was like, okay, I really like this guy, and so I kept using him. We've just been
Yeah.
great referral partners.
Especially the top people, like top parts of this team, like the title lender and us or whatever. I feel like we're the top 3 of like throughout the transaction. That if something goes wrong with one of those, like the title or whatever, it's like it can really throw off the rest of the transaction.
Definitely,
So
100%.
but
Well,
that's our
All
team.
right.
It's
Yes.
not just us, but we love our vendors. We love having all of our team
For sure.
players
Yeah.
and everything help with
Yeah.
the transaction.
That
All
was
right.
the team. We will talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.